Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. We're going to take a little break from talking about transfers, talking about new strikers, and we're just going to talk about strikers all day long. We're not going to talk about new ones. We're going to rank the best Chelsea strikers of the Roman Abramovich era. Not only are we going to rank the best ones, we're going to rank the worst ones, the ones that are in between. And as you can see on the screen, we've got the rankings of elite strikers. Success, as in they've been a success. Good value for money. Underwhelmed, as in we saw them play for Chelsea and it wasn't quite what we expected. And failure. So for those of you that don't know, there have been 25 different strikers that have played first team minutes for Chelsea since Roman Abramovich took over. That is quite a lot of players. And a lot of these have been bought in from clubs across Europe with big expectations. There's been some marquee signings, which is a word that's being thrown around a lot again now. And there's also been players that have been absolute bargains that have gone on to become Chelsea legends. So the Roman Abramovich era began in 2003. The Russian came in and he saw a project in West London that was something that could elevate a club that were teetering around the top four into a European powerhouse. And now I'm sat here in 2020 wearing a leopard print shirt in this place in flipping Bali, talking about my football club who have won pretty much all there is to win apart from the Club World Cup. Thank you very much, Mr. Rafa Benitez, for ruining that one. So the way this is going to work, we're going to begin from the first striker signing of the Roman Abramovich era, and it was Adrian Mutu for £15.8 million from Parma. We all know the way that it started for Adrian Mutu. 4 goals in his first 3 games. We're looking at this thinking, this guy's got something a little bit special. However, he then turned out to just be involved with drugs, which is ever so slightly a nightmare when it comes to being a professional footballer. The two, they don't really do this, to be quite honest. So, in all honesty, there's absolutely no other way to start this video than to stick Adrian Mutu, if I can see his mug, in the failure category. It's just, no, the man wasn't good enough at Chelsea and he scored 6 goals in his first season and he left the following one. No good. So the next player, and I'm going to tell a personal story about this player because I absolutely loved Hernan Crespo, the man who came from Inter Milan. He was at Chelsea for a few years, he had a couple of loan moves in there, but he did manage to score 20 Premier League goals. The man came with a lot of expectations and I think that we saw probably the best of Hernan Crespo's career both before and after he was at Chelsea. He didn't really set the Premier League on fire, but he was a very, very good player to call upon, and I actually think that he sometimes gets a bit too much stick, Hernan Crespo, for his time at Chelsea. I actually think he did okay, so I'm actually going to go as far as to say that Hernan Crespo was actually pretty good value for money for a Chelsea striker. Even though we're talking 2003, it was a lot of money back then for a striker, but it was still a relatively good return. Now, the personal story that I wanted to tell about Hernan Crespo, I bumped into Hernan Crespo in the Chelsea players car park when I was a kid, and I got a signature in my autograph book, and I have no idea where it is now. So striker number 3, this guy, he might have scored a goal in a League Cup final, but Mattia Kezman, the signing from PSV, this one was a bit embarrassing really. He was a very good goal scorer in the Dutch league and we bought him in thinking, this guy is going to bag them all for Chelsea. Mattia Kezman was a failure in my opinion. I think pretty much nobody can disagree with me on that one. He didn't do anything really at Chelsea and it didn't last very long and he's in the failure category. This isn't starting all that well, to be honest, is it? But it wasn't starting well until we come and sign Didier Drogba. We could talk about this guy for hours and hours on Chelsea YouTube channels. Didier Drogba is the best striker that's ever been at Chelsea Football Club. The man was an absolute powerhouse. He could manhandle defenders, could change a game in the flick of a switch or with his feet, score goals in finals and won Chelsea trophies, sometimes on his own. Didier Drogba is the kind of striker that you don't see necessarily anymore. We've spent money in the same kind of way that we spent on Drogba on players that we thought would be able to create the same kind of aura that Didier Drogba did at Chelsea. It's never quite worked out. So that we don't sit here all day talking about something that's blatantly obvious, we all know that Didier Drogba is an elite striker. So the next one is somebody, and I would guess if this was like Chelsea pointless, this would become a pointless answer, I think, probably. I'm sure there's a couple of you in the comments section who remember Chelsea signing Benson from Hapoel Tel Aviv. And if you remember how many minutes he played in a Chelsea shirt, It's less than 100. The man played 65 minutes as a substitute in a Chelsea shirt. Thank goodness we didn't spend any more than 320 grand on him. I mean, even then, 320 grand, you can buy a nice little house for 320 grand in some places in the world. But no, we bought Benson instead, and well, the guy was just an absolute failure. Moving swiftly on to a man who's always got a great place in my heart, Salamanca Lou. In terms of the goals that he scored at Chelsea, it wasn't the most overwhelming contribution. It was a goal every something like 4.2 games. But in terms of assists, Salamanca Lou was up there as one of the top providers at Chelsea during his time at the club. He provided 2.5 goal contributions a game at Chelsea when we look at both of his goals and his assists. Champions League winner as well. I'd go as far as to say that because he was never really the main striker, often used as a sub, Salamanca Lou was actually a big success at Chelsea, and I've put him in the good value there, but I meant to put him in success underneath his Ivorian counterpart Didier Drogba. So striker number 7 was another striker that was brought in as a marquee striker signing from Roman Abramovich. When Andrei Shevchenko came to Chelsea, we were talking about one of Europe's elite premium strikers for the past few years. Shevchenko came in at 30 million. We knew that he was somebody that Roman Abramovich has always thought of very highly, and when he arrived at Chelsea, there were some pretty huge expectations on the man's shoulders. However, it didn't ever really hit the heights that he did at Milan. We ended up selling him back to Milan a couple of seasons later, and although he scored some very good goals, I remember the goal against Spurs, the goals against Villa, Andrei Shevchenko was ever so slightly underwhelming compared to what I thought he would be. So we've now got a striker, at least in every single category. We're beginning to see, in the Roman Abramovich era, Chelsea have had a lot of different strikers because not all of them have worked out. The curse of the number 9 or whatever it may be. It's not all number 9s, of course, but we're going to move straight on to another striker who came on a free from Bayern Munich. The man from Peru, some people might forget that he even played for Chelsea. He did score 2 goals, Claudio Pizarro. It was, again, a free transfer, and he did score twice. So I'm not going to say that it was a massive failure just because it didn't cost Chelsea any money. So I'm actually going to stick Claudio Pizarro in the underwhelming category. We got 2 goals out of the geezer and he didn't cost us any money, so it's not that bad. Moving on to Nicolas Anelka. Nicolas Anelka was one of my favourite Chelsea players. Coming in from Bolton for 15 million, scoring 59 goals across 4 different seasons at Chelsea, including the Champions League winning season, where he didn't really feature that much that season, but I think he did play 3 or 4 games in the lead up to Chelsea winning the Champions League. Nicolas Anelka gave Didier Drogba the freedom to be that lone striker coming in off the right-hand side, with Florent Malouda on the left. That is when he was at his best at Chelsea. Nicolas Anelka, absolutely love the geezer, sticking him in the success category, even though he's only got half a face on these pictures. Sorry about that again. And we move into striker number 10, Franco De Santos. 0 goals in 8 games. That's me trying. Wow, what is going on here? I'm trying to make an 8 with my fingers. What a pointless activity for a Sunday afternoon. Franco De Santos, we ended up selling him to Wigan. It was a bit of a weird transfer. He didn't cost us that much money, but 0 goals in a Chelsea shirt. We thought we were in for something special when he was given the number 9 shirt. As in, why the bloody hell did that happen then? Franco De Santos was nothing other than a giant Chelsea failure. So the next one we're going to talk about is Daniel Sturridge. We signed him from Manchester City. I'd say that his best years in the Premier League have come when he was at Liverpool, which is slightly frustrating because we always knew that Daniel Sturridge had a lot of ability. He did score a few goals in a Chelsea shirt, but the majority of the time, I felt as though when he was given the chance to play, he was too busy focused on trying to get the number 1 striker spot by being selfish on the ball, as opposed to realising that Didier Drogba is one of the best strikers in world football, and he was going to have to play second string to Didier Drogba or off of the main striker. Daniel Sturridge was either never given the opportunity that he wanted, or when he was given the opportunity at Chelsea, he was too selfish on the ball and we didn't see enough from him. Therefore, even though, I don't know, man, this is a tough one. It didn't cost us that much money, and he did manage to score 13 Premier League goals. If it wasn't for injuries, I think we would have started to see more of the Daniel Sturridge that we saw at Liverpool. I'm going to go as far as to say that Daniel Sturridge was good value. It wasn't the most expensive transfer, and he did get 13 Premier League goals, which is not a bad return. So good value, but I wish it was the Sturridge we saw at Liverpool. Okay, so the next one is Fernando Torres. This is the Chelsea striker of the Roman Abramovich era that always raises the most questions. It's one of the most expensive Chelsea signings. The man at Liverpool was absolutely incredible. He had one of the best prolific Premier League goal scoring records of his time. Chelsea go in and spend £50 million. Fernando Torres has come in and everyone is looking at him to recreate what he did at Liverpool. There's absolutely no doubt that Fernando Torres was a far more prolific striker during his days at Liverpool. However, what we did see from Torres at Chelsea was a completely different role, but we moulded Fernando Torres into a lot more of a team player as opposed to a man who's just scoring the goals. So even though Didier Drogba was still the main striker, Fernando Torres scored some huge goals at Chelsea. The record wasn't incredible. 20 Premier League goals in 110 games, but 10 goals in 29 in the Champions League. The tough thing here is, I personally think that Fernando Torres was a Chelsea success. I think that despite the record not being as good as at Liverpool, and I consider his time a success due to the Barcelona goal, due to the fact that he was that team player, was often creating chances for his teammates, as opposed to always scoring the goals. I'm actually going to stick Fernando Torres in the success category at Chelsea. I know that is going to spark a lot of debates amongst you, and I'm not just doing it so that you disagree with me and we get talking. But let me know in the comments down below. Do you consider Fernando Torres' time at Chelsea a big success, or was it underwhelming? I know a lot of people have different thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments below. Before we get in, we're about halfway through. I just want to ask you to subscribe if you haven't already to the George Benson football channel. And once again, if you didn't watch yesterday's video, a big thank you for 100k. Now, we spent a few Ks, we spent a few million on the Belgian Romelu Lukaku. He's turned out to become one of Europe's most prolific goal scorers in recent years. We spent 18 million on Romelu Lukaku, and for me, we looked at Lukaku and we looked at his attributes as a young player, and I think that Chelsea looked at him as being the long-term replacement to Didier Drogba. However, it didn't really work out for Romelu Lukaku at Chelsea. Again, like Daniel Sturridge, where we saw his best at Liverpool, since Lukaku left Chelsea, he's gone from strength to strength, and now he is one of Europe's top strikers, even though he does come in for criticism. But, well, there's nowhere else to put him other than in the failure category at Chelsea because it never worked out for him at the Blues. Moving into another player who came from Newcastle United with a very good goal-scoring record, didn't set the world on fire at Chelsea, but in terms of the importance of some of the goals that he scored, Demba Ba was one of my favourite Chelsea strikers of recent years. I'm not going to say he's up there in like my top 5 Chelsea strikers of all time, because he definitely isn't up there, but the goals against PSG, that goal against Manchester United, and of course, the goal when Steven Gerrard slipped, I'm going to go as far as to say that Demba Ba was very good value for money at Chelsea. I wouldn't say that it was the most successful appointment we've ever had, but it was good value for 7 million quid. Speaking of favourite strikers though, Diego Costa. This man is as close to Didier Drogba in the striker category at Chelsea as anybody could be for me, because I absolutely loved what Diego Costa brought to the pitch. We always knew, despite him never getting a red card in a Chelsea shirt, we knew that he was there to antagonise opposition defenders, to get under the skin of the referee, and to change games with his mental state as a Chelsea player. Not only that, but the man was incredibly strong. He could muscle other players off the ball, score different types of goals, and I would go as far as to say that in recent years, since Didier Drogba left in 2012, Diego Costa has been Chelsea's best striker, and I'm sticking him straight in the elite strikers category. I think that he left at the wrong time. It was one of the biggest downfalls of Antonio Conte's Chelsea career, with falling out with Diego Costa. Those two, they clashed heads a lot, and unfortunately, Diego Costa left the club, but for me, he's in there in the elite category for sure. The next player is a man who signed from Newcastle United for £8.5 million and has this season come back to Stamford Bridge and scored a goal against us. It was a good finish from Loic Remy when Lille came to the Bridge, when we secured our place in the last 16 of the Champions League. Remy, he was Diego Costa's understudy, really. He was never given the opportunity to lead the line and be Chelsea's #1 striker. He did come up with some important goals. I would say that he was actually good value for money, because when he did play, I thought that Remy was pretty good, and I think opportunities at Chelsea weren't something that came in abundance for him, so he goes into the good value category. Some would say that he was underwhelming, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. So another player who is about to fill up the flipping failure category category at Chelsea was Radamel Falcao. I remember there was the day that he scored his goal against Crystal Palace. I was at blimmin' Insomnia, a YouTube event, and it was amazing because I thought, finally, the geezer's got his goal. And then it was just a shambles, really, from Radamel Falcao. There was nothing to shout about. It was a failure at Manchester United, failure at Chelsea, and it's a massive shame because I thought that Radamel Falcao, when he was at Atletico Madrid, you remember when he absolutely did us over in the Super Cup? We're talking about one of the best strikers in the world. And I thought that when he came to Chelsea, because of the way he's built and he's pretty strong, he wasn't like a Diego Costa kind of bully, but he was good enough on the floor, good enough in the air, and I thought that Falcao would have a field day in the Premier League. And when Chelsea gave him the chance, he just didn't show us anything really, did he? So Radamel Falcao goes into the failure category. So another player that I got super excited about was the loan move from Corinthians for Alexandre Pato. I thought this was going to be exciting. Pato was one of Brazil's, there's always those Brazilians who get given this, he's going to be the next guy. He's going to be like the next Ronaldo. And then it just doesn't happen because you're making your expectations compared to one of the best strikers in footballing history. Failure. I mean, let's be real. He scored twice, including a penalty, but come on, mate. It's a shame. Pato wasn't good, was he? We move into another striker who, again, is big money. Michy Batshuayi, 33.2 million from Marseille. The signing from Marseille, we've seen this be a massive success for Chelsea Football Club in the past, but the 33.2 million pounds that we spent on Michy Batshuayi, he's never really hit the levels of what we'd have expected. He's scored some big goals, and in terms of his goal scoring record at Chelsea, it's actually been very good, Michy Batshuayi. He's scored a lot of goals compared to the minutes that he's played. So often when we think we're about to get a good run of form from Batshuayi, he gets given another chance and then he plays an awful game. He doesn't have any kind of consistency with his form, and for the fact that we spent 33.6 million on him, I don't think if we sell him this summer, which is looking likely, I don't think we'll be able to get that money back. I'm going to go as far as to say that despite him scoring some very high value goals, overall, Batshuayi's been underwhelming. And if I look at what we've got here on this tier list, Chelsea strikers of the Abramovich era, it is pretty heavily dominated at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of players not being as good as we thought. But we do move now into Alvaro Murata. Oh, great. Just as I thought we might be able to shift a few more towards the top of this tier list. Alvaro Murata, Chelsea's most expensive striker ever. He scored one of the quickest Premier League hat-tricks that Chelsea have ever scored at Stoke, and it was an amazing day. But other than that, I believe that ever since his wife got pregnant, we just saw Murata's form just dip ridiculously. It was almost as if the player just completely changed overnight, and we never saw the Murata that we saw at Stoke again. Scored a couple of goals. He just never looked like he was interested in playing for the blue shirt. And for a Chelsea number 9, when we've been used to having someone like Didier Drogba at the club, banging in the goals for over the years, the number 9 shirt again, it was given to Murata the same way it was given to Torres. The Spaniard comes in, gets the number 9 shirt, and it just never really materialised. I'm not going to say it's a total failure though, because Marina Granovskaya managed to get back the money almost that we spent on Alvaro Murata, and then she's gone and bought Timo Werner. So considering he did score a few goals and that incredible hat-trick, it was underwhelming from Murata, and I think that's me being kind. For some reason, I have forgotten. The next one we're going to do is Samuel Eto'o, the man who absolutely set the world on fire at Barcelona, one of the best African strikers of all time. Samuel Eto'o came to Chelsea on a free from Anzi Makachakala, I think I've said that correctly, from Russia, and because he scored that hat-trick against Arsenal, I absolutely loved seeing Samuel Eto'o in a Chelsea shirt, and I think, considering we bought him in on a free, Samuel Eto'o goes straight into the success category at Chelsea. We've always got to balance what we spent on the player, whether they love playing for Chelsea and whether they scored a load of goals. Although Samuel Eto'o scored more goals than virtually everywhere else he played in his career, I thought his time at Chelsea was a big success. Now the next player we're going to do is of course Andre Schurrle, the man bought in from Bayer Leverkusen. Hopefully we can get back on the same number and buy another attacking player from Bayer Leverkusen shortly. Let's just keep our fingers crossed for that one. Andre Schurrle, 11 Premier League goals. I feel as though Schurrle, when he was given the opportunity at Chelsea, we could always rely on him. He scored some big goals in the Champions League as well. I think the majority of his time at Chelsea he was used as a substitute, but I would go as far as to say that Andre Schurrle left Chelsea a little bit too early. I'm going to say that Schurrle was also a Chelsea success. I really liked the way that he played. and his left foot was an absolute arrow, and it's a shame he left so early. And for 18 million, it wasn't the most expensive signing that we've ever made, and I think the return was pretty good. We move now into Olivier Giroud. I personally think Giroud's time at Chelsea has been a pretty big success. I know that I said that I wanted to make this pyramid slightly more dominant for the successful Chelsea strikers and less so for the failures, but Olivier Giroud last season in the Europa League, his goals, and obviously the influence of the whole team and Eden Hazard and everything else, has had a very good time at Chelsea since coming in. He scored the goal in the FA Cup semi-final as well against Southampton. Another big one there for Chelsea at Wembley. Olivier Giroud, considering he's not always been the starting striker, I would consider his time at Chelsea a big success. Moving into somebody who definitely isn't one, Gonzalo Higuan. Apart from a beautiful finish against Huddersfield, it wasn't good really for Higuan. Again, one of Europe's top strikers of recent years with a fantastic goal scoring record, comes into Chelsea and he doesn't really do anything of note, let's just say, from Higuain. I'm going to stick him in the failure category because I really expected Higuain to come in and blast like 15 goals in the second half of last season. Nothing good came of it. And then a striker who isn't really a signing under Roman Abramovich. It's come from the academy. It's Tammy Abraham. So far, we are going to stick him in the successes. And the reason I've done that, even though we didn't buy him under Roman Abramovich, is because we know that Roman Abramovich has spent a lot of money on the Chelsea academy to make it what it is, to fuel the future for homegrown talents at Chelsea from that academy, to understand what the DNA of the club is. We're going to put Tammy Abraham in there as a celebration of what Roman Abramovich has done to enable these academy players to come through. And so far, Tammy's been a big success. We're not going to stick him in elite strikers just yet because that's setting our expectations a little bit too high, but I think he might make his way there in the future. So yeah, this has been a Chelsea tier list video ranking all of the strikers that we have signed under Roman Abramovich. There have been some other players that have come in that have been brought into like the under 18s, but they've never played first team minutes. So I didn't rate those because there was pretty much no point in doing so. But as always, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about what I've done here. Who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with? I'm sure there are a few in there that are definitely going to pique some interest amongst you. So let me know in the comments down below what it is that you've gone for. Hit the like button if you did enjoy this one. I want to make some more of these tier list videos. I'm sure you guys can do it. Let's see if we can go ahead and hit 4,000 likes today, and I will catch you tomorrow with a brand new video. See you later.